Hi, my name is Kayla Milner-Raula, and I'm one of our F1 student advisors here at the University of Arkansas. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and we hope that you'll find this information helpful. If you don't know where you're at or how you found us, we are the University of Arkansas International Students and Scholars Office, and this presentation is to help you understand more about OPT and to learn just a little bit more about the overall process, information that could be helpful for you as you continue to apply, basic information about things like the fees, timelines to apply, and other ways that you can know just the overall process of what does it mean to apply for OPT. This is a continuation of what you have probably already heard in passing or from friends or other workshops you may have come to at the University of Arkansas. And so we hope that you find this information helpful. Well, first and foremost, I really just want to say that we're thankful that you are here today. And if you're thinking about OPT, then that sounds like you're probably ready to actually finish your program. And we know that you've worked so hard, could have studied literally anywhere in the world, so that you chose to do that with the University of Arkansas. We're so thankful that you have chosen us to trust with your education, and we're so excited for you in your next steps. So, what is OPT, right? We hear it a lot. It's just an acronym thrown around, but ultimately it stands for Optional Practical Training. So, it's optional because it's a benefit you can apply for, but you're not required to apply for it. It's practical because it does have to have a real life implication to what you actually studied and how is it related to your courses that you took. And then still training, right? So now we get to go out into the world and actually practice all of those things I've been learning inside the classroom and now apply those things outside of the classroom. Now, something we often hear students say is, I'm on OPT status, and we really want to address something. While you're on OPT, you're still in F1 student status because OPT isn't a status. It's just a continuation of your F1 student status as an F1 benefit. So after completing my program, I can continue on in my F1 student status with my OPT. So in the eyes of immigration, while I'm on OPT, I'm still an F1 student. Just want to help you know that. So you would need an F1 student visa if you were to need to travel during this period of time. Overall, still F1 student, even while still on OPT. Now, OPT is also for all F1 student status. So was I in construction, engineering, architecture, the fine arts? Was I psychology, sociology, teaching? All majors at the University of Arkansas have an opportunity if a student has maintained their F1 status and qualifies with all of the other benefits, with making sure you completed all your program requirements and all other things. All students could apply for, F1 students can apply for OPT. Now, some students may also qualify for something called STEM extension. And the STEM extension is an additional 2-year eligibility for certain STEM degrees. If you have a question, if your degree is STEM eligible, you can contact our office to try to see, as well as we can give you access to resources to find out if yours is STEM eligible as well. We'll also be making another video similar to this that goes over STEM extension. What does it mean? How do you apply? Especially if you think that your degree program is in a STEM field and would like to know more about the full process. But today we're just really going to focus in on that first year of optional practical training all majors qualify for. So everybody always asks, is there a cost to apply for OPT? You should probably brace yourself. It's a little expensive now. So the standard OPT application is $470. This is why we really want you to apply as early as possible, because this is the much cheaper option than what it could be later, right? So If you needed your EAD card in less than 100 days from the day you apply, then you might need to really consider applying for premium processing. As of March 1st of 2026, the cost of premium processing is going up to $1,780. When you apply for OPT, you could choose to apply without premium processing with just the basic application, or if you chose to do premium processing, you would have to pay both the $470 fee plus the $1,780 fee. So your grand total would be over $2,200. We all know that that money could go a lot of different places, right? That's like a couple of months of rent. It could also just really help you if you needed to move for a job. So our hope is that when you're seeing this, that you'll take a thought, just really think about your goals and what your plans are to see if applying as early as you can would work for you well. Now, what about some OPT vocabulary? There's some words that just, if you've never heard them before, it would be hard for you to know what to look for. So we want to help you build your OPT vocabulary so you can kind of understand what's happening on your documentation and what do we mean when we're saying some of these words. So one of the big ones is your program end date. Your program end date is listed on page 1 of your I-20, right about in the middle. So if you see where that big circled line, program start and end date, that tells us and the U.S. government when were you starting your program at the U of A, as well as when do you intend to finish all of your requirements for your degree. So it can look a little different from our undergrad to our graduate students. So if you're an undergraduate student, the last day of the last semester of finals that you take for the last class you have to have for your degree is considered your program end date. And that's when you would become eligible for knowing that this is the semester I can apply for OPT. Now, for graduate students, there are a couple of options of when your end dates can be, but it must be verified by an academic advisor. One could be the last day of the semester you finish all required coursework, including thesis or dissertation hours. Is it the day that you make your final deposit of your thesis or dissertation to the grad school? It could be the last day of your graduate assistantship in the same semester you finish all program requirements or submit your thesis or dissertation, or just the last day of your final semester. So maybe it's the end of your assistantship, the end of your courses, and you'll make your thesis or dissertation deposit at the same time. All normal processes to move forward. Now, one special circumstance that we'll talk a little bit later is that grad students can still be working on their thesis and dissertation and apply for OPT. Now, an EAD card or the employment authorization document. We really want you to be familiar with what this is, right? So in the United States, what is your proof that you have legal work authorization in the United States on OPT? It's your EAD card. So a couple of things we really want you to notice. There's going to be a front and a back. USCIS usually wants copies of both as well as our office. Then you're going to be able to see your name. You're going to get an A number or an alien registration number. It's what's going to be under that number called USCIS number. And then there's also going to be a start and end date on this EAD card. So we see on this one that shows October 25th of 2022 for 2 years. This one you could think about looks a lot like a STEM extension EAD card. If it's just for your 1 year of OPT, then it would just be for 365 days of time in which you qualify for your EAD card. Now, the reason we wanted to show you first about this EAD card is that ultimately you're going to have to choose an OPT start date. So the OPT start date is when you want to request your work authorization in the United States to begin. You do have to make the choice of this date on your own. It's not something that our office or somebody else could tell you to choose. Like, it's really up to you as the student to decide if it fits within a certain number of days that this is the day I want it to be, right? This date also can't be changed once you submit the OPT application to USCIS. So when you've filled out your forms, you've submitted your form and then paid the fee, that point in time, the date we sent in is the last day you have. Now, if you have questions or concerns about when would be the date I need to do this, how would I understand what's the best date for me, after we get through this presentation and we've talked a little bit more about commonly asked questions, then please feel free to schedule an appointment with an advisor to ask more questions about your own situation, or you could also join our live chat Monday through Friday at 8:30 to 9:30, or from 3 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Most days the office is open. And so we'd be happy to chat with you or help you understand what those are. Appointments tend to be a little faster, just so that you can tell us about your concerns or what you're thinking about, and we can tend to do it a little faster than chat. Okay, now a grace period. Your grace period comes following the end of your program end date. So if you look on your I-20, again, in that program start and end date, we really want you to be paying attention. One thing to really know, I can do a lot of things before we get to your program end date. After your program end date has come to pass, we can't really make a lot of edits post that. So, things we really want you to know about. While you're here, after you finish your program, you do have 60 days to legally remain inside the United States under something called an authorized period of stay for your grace period. During that time, you could still apply for OPT. You could transfer your SEVIS record to a new school. If you have a different degree program you would be starting, or if you were admitted to another program at the University of Arkansas, we could help get you a new I-20 issued for that new program. You could also apply for any change of status in the United States to another status that is not F1. You could also travel around the United States, pack up your life because maybe you have a great job opportunity or a new place you're going to go study halfway across the world, and then you can use this time to help pack your things up, prepare to depart the United States, as well as you enjoying the last little bit of time that you have in your F1 status. So then when can I apply? Tell us more. So the earliest time our office can send a student an I-20 is 90 days before your program end date that we can hand it to you. If we were to give it to you any earlier, it would be denied because it's outside of the appropriate window for us to issue it. So the actual 90 days before for spring of 2026 is actually on a Saturday. So what we recommend and what you'll see on all of our calendars is actually the first Monday that we're all back in the office. So those would be the days you could anticipate getting an appointment, seeing that I-20, and being ready to apply. Then other students is, well, when's the absolute latest day I could apply? And the latest day you can apply for your OPT is 60 days after your program end date. And it's the absolute last day, and it's very risky. I would really recommend that you would, if you wanted to wait as long as possible, that you give yourself at least 3 to 5 business days so you can ensure that you get something called a receipt notice. And the receipt notice shows that you have a pending application with USCIS. Now, what's a basic overview of the timeline, right? So the earliest day I can apply for OPT is that 90 days before my program ends. Then I get to my program end date, and we're partying because it's maybe we're doing commencement, maybe I've done a successful defense of my thesis or dissertation, or I've made it through my final semester of my undergrad, and we're just so excited to be done. As we're building towards that anticipation, we are, after our program end date, that's going to start that grace period that we talked about. So in that grace period, you have up to 60 days that you could legally remain inside the United States if you chose not to do anything. But then also up to 60 days is when you could apply for OPT, apply for a change of status, or get a new I-20 either at our institution or transfer your status record to another school. Now, something interesting is that you do have to pick an OPT start date that's going to be within the 60 days after your program end date. So I have in that same grace period time would be the same days I have to choose from to decide which one of these days would be the one I would choose to start my work authorization in the United States. Those are also just the ones we make the request to USCIS to do. We can't guarantee any official start date, as we do still have to submit an application, wait for our application to be approved, and then the card issued to us. So as we look forward through that, if let's say I picked a date that was going to start right after spring commencement. So I finished on May 8th of 2026, and I really wanted to start my job by June 1st. And then I had an offer letter and I applied for June 1st. And then I applied for my OPT. I paid the premium processing because I waited a little bit of time and it was just really anxious that I wanted to have my card in hand in time to start. Then I could also apply with my premium processing, get my EAD card in hand, and then from June 1st of 2026 until May 30th of 2027 would be the amount of time that I had. So what happens if I don't apply exactly in the normal time, right? We have this only 12 months of time that I get to add. And then it says way down here that it could also be that they can't approve past 14 months from when your final program end date is. And they're not wrong. So if we think about it from the timeline, if we apply late in July, right, or the last day we can in July, then we've used pretty much all of our grace period, right? And so if we've used all of our grace period, USCIS just can't extend beyond more than the grace period plus 12 months of time. So some students might say oh, I lost some time on my OPT. And part of it could be due to processing. Some of it is also the timeline in which you applied for OPT. So again, this is why our office really highly encourages that if you can apply as early as possible, that we really recommend it. Now, all students, regardless of their major, are eligible for that 1 year of optional practical training. So upon your completion of OPT, you would then get an additional 60-day grace period, prepare for your new program, apply for status similarly like you could have used if you had chosen not to apply for OPT at all. So let's put this into some actual perspective on a calendar. So the very earliest day, if you are going to finish all of your program requirements in spring of 26 and then attend commencement, then February 9th is the very first day we could issue you an I-20. I highlighted spring break just so you could understand kind of where in the process you are before the end of the semester, and where it might be easier or harder for you to get an appointment with our office. Then you'll also have April and May, June, and then July 7th is the absolute cutoff of the last day you could legally apply for OPT in the United States if you finish your program in spring of 2026. Now, we also know we have a lot of students who thought they might have finished by spring 26, but maybe it really took until summer of 2026. The full 10-week summer term is actually going to end on July 31st of this year. So May 4th would be the very first day students who would be intending to graduate in the summer of 26 would qualify to start applying for optional practical training. Also, we've tried to highlight some different holidays. So there are a few little bonus holidays in there as well. So it's good for you to keep an eye on your calendar of when could you get an appointment, as well as your own timelines of when you will want to begin your work in the United States. Now, as a reminder, our special circumstances is what if a grad student who is only down to their thesis or dissertation remaining, and you've completed all of your required classes, including the minimum number of hours for your thesis or dissertation hours, you actually could qualify to apply for OPT while you're finishing the last of writing that thesis or dissertation. And so if this feels like something you would like to explore or have more questions about, please feel free to schedule an appointment with our office and we can talk you more about, do you fit this special circumstance and do you feel like this might be the best option for you? Now, how can I start the overall process, right? I've learned a little bit about what it is and some about the rules and how much money it's probably going to cost me. But how do I really get started on getting it done? The first one is you're going to have to collect the documents you need. You'll need to fill out forms in ISS Link. And then you'll also need to schedule an appointment with ISS by calling our office. So, what documents do I need? You're going to need to upload 3 major documents to begin with. Your most recent I-94, a copy of your valid US passport. We really recommend that it has at least more than 6 months remaining on it on the time you apply, or you have proof that you are in the process of renewing a passport as well. Then we also will need you to get a passport style photo taken within the last 6 months. If you have questions about how do I get a passport style photo, what would be the best option for that, and to save you maybe money at Walgreens or things like that, let our office know, hop onto live chat, and we can give you tips on how to try to get a cheaper passport style photo taken. Okay, then I have all my documents. Now what's next? We're going to ask you to go to iss.uark.edu, scroll halfway down the page and click the ISS link button, or you could go directly to isslink.uark.edu and it should take you to your login main page. Now, the reason why we want you to do this is that you can follow these steps to prepare for applying for that OPT I-20. So, once we log into ISS Link, we're going to go to F1 Practical Training. Then under F1 Practical Training, we're going to click the optional practical training. Again, all students, regardless of major, we all start with optional practical training. Unless you have already been approved for OPT and your window for STEM extension has already become available, then you do not need to fill out the STEM OPT application. If it's your first time to apply for OPT and to get this work benefit for your degree program, all students will apply for optional practical training. Then the next one is the actual e-forms. One thing that doesn't show that you might see if you're a graduate student is that you'll also have a graduate assistantship verification as well. If you are a graduate student without an assistantship, you'll be able to click the drop-down tab that says you don't have one, but that's the only additional one you may not see on this page. So we need verification from your GA supervisor if you have one. We need to see one from your academic advisor as well if for all students. We need you to fill out the OPT information, and that OPT information is going to be things like my passport number, my date of birth, where was I born, common asked questions related to your immigration status. That information is really just for us a way to help build you a cheat sheet for how to actually fill out the form itself. Then once those required ones are checked off, those little locked ones will become unlocked. So those determine your OPT dates. That's the day we need you to tell us what day you would like your card to start. You're going to post it in there, and then we'll be able to review it when we look at your application. And so that would be when you would tell us, this is the day I'd like to start my EAD card. And then once all of those forms are all filled out, the last step will be to schedule your appointment. You'll click into that one. You'll get the steps for how to call our office and to get started. But just know you must call the ISS office to schedule that OPT appointment. We do not schedule it on chat. We will have to call the office to get that one first. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what could be confusing about an OPT start date. So let's look at it in both what would happen for spring as well as what might happen for summer. So for May 2026, if we are finishing all of our program of study, then that would be on Friday, May 8th, 2026. Even if you still had more time remaining on your I-20, if that is the day you will have ended all of your requirements, your I-20 will be shortened to May 8th of 2025, and your grace period would then begin following that date. So one of the ways that that has to be is that the earliest day you could apply for your OPT to start, so the date that would be printed on your actual EAD card, would be on May 9th of 2026. And the absolute last day that we can put on your EAD card, like that we could recommend for your I-20, is January 7th of 2026. Any of these days would work for you. Whatever one you feel like is best for you, those are the ones we want. Again, I really do not recommend that you apply on the very last day because you run the risk of not getting your receipt notice in time, and that would just be a bummer. So again, I would really recommend to give yourself at least 3 to 5 business days before your program end date as the actual end date of your grace period for you to qualify for this one. Okay, so May 9th to July 7th, I pick one of these days. Whichever date you choose will be printed on your recommendation on your page 2 of your I-20 that says the University of Arkansas believes you qualify for OPT and that we've endorsed you to start, like that we recommend you for OPT, and then you will use that signed I-20 with your application to apply with USCIS, and then that's the day we ask USCIS to say this is the day I would like to begin working in the United States. Now, what if I'm a 2026 summer graduate? Then this would kind of be what this looks like for the start of your program end date. So your program end date is spring for summer. I'm sorry, this says spring and not summer. The end date for summer 2026 is July 31st. Then this would be your 60-day window following. The very first day is the 1st through the 29th. Again, we're probably not really going to issue I-20s until we actually get there, so it would be realistic you probably wouldn't see your I-20 until August 3rd. Now, again, the later we wait, the later we risk of our OPT being denied if we wait too long to apply. Now, other things we want you to know is that on average, it can take a little bit of time to get here. So you may want to think about it. So, other questions we get. But Kayla, what date should I choose? Things to consider is that on my EAD card, if I've been approved, all of my days count, even my weekends count as days on a calendar from that. So if I say I have 60 days following my program end date, it includes Saturdays and Sundays. So oftentimes we hear things like, I don't have a job yet and I want to maximize my time to apply for jobs. The first thing we'd want you to know is that you don't actually need a job offer to apply for OPT. This really means that you could put your EAD card start date as all the way to July 31st or July 7th if you're a spring and summer grad looking at our dates, and you could put it all the way to the final day if you know that you weren't planning to begin work until much later. Now, the reason why we want you to think about that is by saying that, you're saying for 2 full months, I'm not going to work in the United States because I will lose all work eligibility in the United States on my program end date, and then I would not be able to begin work again until my EAD card is approved and in hand and in my possession to start work. So if we say that we want to put it another 60 days out of could you really be inside the United States for up to 2 or 3 months while you wait for that new card to come in the mail without work? Then what if I want a little time from after I graduate to travel and then start my OPT? Then I would recommend that you give yourself enough space to do your travel and have it start when you're ready to work. So if you're like, hey, I know I was already going to go and try to celebrate a little bit of my graduation and get to do the things I really kind of wanted to do that I put on hold while I was studying, then this is a great opportunity to do that. Maybe you needed to move for a job because the jobs you're looking at are in very different states. So am I going to put a date that's a little further out so that I could prepare for like my next steps? Now, if you were planning to travel after your program end date and while you have a pending USCIS application, I really would not. Even once you've been approved for your OPT, it would be very risky to travel right now on OPT if you do not have a valid US visa. The visas are the hardest thing for us to legally advise on at this period of time, but if you have your visa, you have a job offer and other things, you may find it less difficult to travel at this point in time. Now, the last question. When are most students actually starting theirs? We have many students who have job offers who are usually wanting to start within the first 2 weeks after commencement. We have some who want a month off of school, so they place it about a month after they finish their school. Then another one is that they already had an offer letter that stated exactly when they would like to begin working in the United States, so they're going to choose that date as when they would like to start their work in the United States. And then sometimes we just have to make the best educated guess, and students just put what they feel like feels right for them. We just want you to know that every single student has slightly different priorities when it comes to when or how they want their EAD cards to start, and different things that might motivate them to do them earlier or later depending on your situation. There's really no wrong answer as long as you fall within your 60-day grace period of the start date of that OPT. That's really what we need you to have for us to recommend you on your I-20. Now, I filled out all of my forms on ISS Link. I've picked my date. I feel like I'm ready. All of my forms are uploaded. Then what's next? After you fill those out, you're going to need to come to either a virtual or in-person appointment that you scheduled with the front desk to get your I-20 and talk through the final steps for how to apply for OPT. Then after you meet with an ISS advisor, you're going to need to download, print, and sign and scan your OPT I-20, and then go to the USCIS website and apply for your OPT. You won't be able to change your date after you've made this time, right? So if I've already been issued my I-20 and then I submit my application and then I've paid my fee, there is not a way for us to change that date. Now, on average, we are seeing it take more than 90 to 100 days. In the fall, the spring, the summer, there's not a change of when it would take a student to get an EAD card with the standard application fee. We know it can be really hard to wait and frustrating that you can't apply more than 90 days, but it may take more than 90 days to get your EAD card in the mail. But we want you to know that we see it, we know that it's hard to wait, but we'll be just as excited for you as soon as you get it in the mail. Now, other things we want to address is that we know that there are some things that are causing some more delays than outside of normal. There are foreign nationals from countries that have travel bans that may experience more delays due to increased security screenings that may cause the timeline for when you may see your approval or a decision on your case take just a little bit of more time. Then also a student who has had any type of DUI, law enforcement interactions due to a criminal record, or a student who has been arrested or been through the court system is subject to have a much more scrutiny under the processing, potentially get some things called like a notice of an intent to deny, not a full denial, so they may be allowed to plead their case, but you should know that these things could really cause long-term challenges while applying for your F1 student benefits. Another commonly asked question we get is, how long do I have to find a job, right? When do I start? How do I start? If I did get my OPT approved, how many days? So based off of when it is 90 days of unemployment begins. If you get your EAD card, we see the start date, and that start date has come to pass. And after that date, if you have not begun working in the United States, that would start a clock for 90 days of unemployment. Your unemployment days are cumulative, so it's not like I use them just a couple of days and then I lose them all if I get a job. These will be with you for that full year of OPT. So maybe it took me a week before I could start my job. I would have 7 days of unemployment, and then I could be working in this job, but then get a crazy good job offer somewhere else. So I leave like 4 months into my job to go take a different job, and then I take 2 or 3 weeks to go ahead and to move to that next one. I could just use that amount of time of my OPT unemployment days. Now, let's say I'm just really struggling in the job market and I really did go like 60 days and I didn't find a job yet. That's okay. That's what your unemployment is for, is that it gives you some wiggle room when life didn't go exactly how we intended. The one thing we really want you to understand, though, is that 90 days is not just like Monday through Friday, right? So this work authorization is used for lots of different reasons, and a lot of different majors have a lot of different needs. So some jobs actually are weekend-based jobs, and so the United States says that it is 90 calendar days is how long you have to do that. So whatever you see on your start date, plus 90 days, including Saturdays and Sundays. Now, another common question: where do I tell somebody about who my employer is once I have one? Once you've been approved for OPT and you're ready to report your employment, you're going to see an email that comes from an email address that feels a little sketchy at first, which might say do not reply at sevp.ice.uscis.gov. And so many students see ICE and then they panic, and I assure you that they're just trying to give you access for you to actually report your employment. And what it really is for you to tell them who you're working for and how are you actually maintaining your F1 student status. And please don't panic. If you go to get your portal link, if you're getting into it, something's not working, things like that, or you've tried to log in and you somehow can't get logged in, you'll just reach back out to one of us at the office and then we can help you try to get back on track with it. You won't be able to have access to this portal link until your OPT has been approved. Now, what we need you to know for travel is that our office does not recommend that a student travel outside of the United States with a USCIS application pending for OPT. It is very risky. It's just, we really want you to have your EAD card in hand to travel back to the United States. There's just so much that could go wrong if we don't have all of our paperwork. So even once it's approved, travel is less risky, but every time we step outside of the United States, we take some risk to see what this could be. Now, if you're traveling within the United States, we want you to keep photocopies as well as hard copies of your documents when you travel. If you're traveling around inside of Arkansas, soft copies can always stay on your phone. We really want you to feel like you have access to keep your phone safe and in person with you. So having photocopies is a little easier for you to pass off to an officer if you're ever asked for something as proof of that. But we really recommend, especially if you're getting on an airplane or that you're traveling outside of the state where you're currently located, to carry state ID if you have one, a driver's license, your passport, as well as your I-20 and your EAD card as proof of employment, and maybe even an offer letter from your employer. So Similar things that you would take with you. The one thing we don't have to see is your visa when you're just traveling around inside the United States. But if I were to travel while on OPT and I still have a valid F1 student visa, you would take your passport, your visa, your signed I-20, your EAD card, and proof of employment. Your EAD card actually will say at the bottom of it is not valid for re-entry to the United States. That's not saying that like you can't come back. It's just saying that that document alone is not sufficient to bring you into the United States. You may also be asked to show proof of employment, recent bank statements if you've been working for them, or a letter or a note from your office saying that they knew you were on vacation. We just want something so you could say that, like, as a part of your insurance policy, as you travel, you have proof of an employer you're returning to work for. Now, something else you may want to know about is that sometimes you might need to be registered. So if you came to the United States after the age of 14 and you entered with a visa stamp that you set for over the age of 14, this does not apply to you. If you have questions or concerns of do you qualify for this, you can always feel free to reach out to our office and we'll be happy to help. Okay, so we've gone over a huge, broad lens of everything, kind of the basics that we know about for OPT. But one thing I want to remind you is that maybe OPT might not be the best option for you, or maybe that it is. Or maybe you're thinking about OPT, but maybe grad school, or maybe continuing from a master's to a PhD in grad school. And so I have multiple options that I want to consider. And so we just want to remind you what are all the options that you have once you've come to the end of your program end date. So one could be that you apply for OPT. One could be that you would transfer to your SEVIS record to a new school or start a new program of study. You could apply for a change of status, or you could even travel around the United States or prepare to depart the United States to go be awesome somewhere else. Now, things we also want you to know about STEM extension, right? There's some of you who are watching this maybe from a STEM field and are wanting to know more about, well, I thought OPT was for 3 years. I'm a STEM major. That we want you to kind of understand that there might be a slightly different process than what you've heard about. So OPT and STEM extension are two separate applications. So STEM OPT is an additional 2-year benefit, but you do have to make a whole other application for this once you've already been approved for your optional practical training, are working with an e-verified employer, and we're getting into your process of 90 days before your EAD card has expired. Now, we have to apply before your normal OPT end date occurs. If you do so, you can keep working for your STEM employer for up to 6 months while you wait for your new EAD card to come in the mail. But you would have to have a new I-20 from our office to be able to apply for STEM extension with a STEM extension recommendation for you to be approved for STEM OPT. So if you're thinking about the process, when am I going to have to know, is that if I want to come back and get additional time, you will still have to come back to our office to get that next step of authorization. Okay, and then again, thank you for joining us. We're so thankful that you have been such great listeners, that you are here, you're learning a little bit more about OPT. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to our office through calling our front desk at 479-575-5003, or you can also join our live chat Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 9:30, or from 3 to 4 p.m. Most days the office is open. You should be able to see either on our Instagram or on our chat page if for whatever reason our chat is not available, but we will still be excited to talk to you whenever we are free. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward for you to come back and learn more next time. Thanks. Bye.